Welcome to episode 7 of the Listen Loan Let's Go podcast, and today we're about to welcome a very special guest. But before we welcome that guest, let's welcome the star of the show, Xavier. Welcome.
Oh, thank you.
Now, this is our 3rd interview episode coming up. Are you excited to obviously chat with Ali and maybe give us a little bit of a background on him and what the listeners can expect today?
Yeah, I'm very excited to talk to Ali because he has been on the Gold Coast as a prominent real estate agent for a long time. So they've been intricate part of seeing this market grow and still grow today. Our buyers, when they go and buy a property, go see agents. So it's only fair that we bring them in and we rub shoulders better. I think that it's giving their sellers and our buyers better chance to get a deal done and walk away with a smile.
Absolutely. So what can our listeners expect? What are some of the hard-hitting questions we're going to ask him?
Okay, so we're going to ask about the market. And I'm not sure if Ali's got a crystal ball or a disco ball, but we'll know soon. Talk about things like rental yield, how easy is it to buy in this market, and talk about auctions as well. So auctions sometimes is a dirty word, but it's real out there, and it's more and more common. So we need everyone to be on the same page and understand how to buy these days.
Fantastic. So we'll get into the interview now with Ali, and then afterwards we'll come back and wrap it all up.
Sounds like a plan.
Okay, now we are joined by a very special guest. We have the principal of Ray White Mian Group. He has over 24 years experience and has built the largest sales team on the northern Gold Coast. Ali Mian, welcome to the show.
Okay, perfect, thank you. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, thanks for being on the show. I know that you have a massive footprint on the Gold Coast in terms of property, and being there that long, you've seen a lot of things and been a part of the growth that the coast has seen. I've got a couple of questions I would love for you to answer to help our listeners, your buyers, our borrowers, I suppose, meander this complex market that we have. So what do you think at the moment impacts your property value in the market?
Look, property value, there are a couple of different sort of aspects. Like number one, presentation, always been the key. So if your presentation is good, so we always recommend our investors or property owners to make sure before they put the property on the market, the presentation is good. Sometimes it just requires a coat of paint, a bit of landscaping, and just a bit of presentation. When it comes to presentation, like they can just enhance the presentation, and it makes a big difference.
And I suppose when we think about that, especially when it's selling an investment property, right?
Correct. Investment property sometimes gets neglected because it's got tenants in there. And I've seen usually people don't come and visit the investment properties that often. Sometimes it's been rented for 5-6 years. They've got that image of that property 6 years ago, and they usually don't remember that they've had like 4 different tenants in that property over the course of 6 years. And they come and look at that after 6 years. It doesn't look new. It's like a car, like after 6 years, the car doesn't look new anymore. But their perception is it's got still the brand new kitchen, it's got still the new carpet, it's got still the paint. No matter how good the tenants are, but there's a wear and tear. So investment properties, 100%. Because if presentation was there, if there was a bit of paint and new carpets and landscaping, those small things can make a big difference.
Correct. So, and I had that you tied in perfectly into one of the other questions I had, which is rental yields. They're very strong at the moment.
Yeah, rental yields are strong because there's a strong demand from within the Gold Coast, which is a lot of owners are selling, and instead of rushing in the market, they are actually opting for renting for a time being, just to see where the market is. And they want to find the right sort of property. So instead of rushing in, they just want to rent. So there's a pressure from there. Secondly, we do have a huge population boom that's taking place. That's from interstate. And they're good tenants. We do lease properties where it's more like, COVID introduced us to the video, Zoom calls and all that. So a lot of tenants are actually not even looking at properties in person, but they're actually looking at through Zoom, or they're looking through just the pictures. They do pay premium rent. So which is good from investor point of view because you are attracting a premium rent.
Well, I imagine if we've got someone coming from Sydney or Melbourne, they're looking for a property to rent for 6 to 12 months. They know it's only short term. They don't want to muck around. So you're right.
Yeah.
They probably pay top rent just to get it, and then move on from there after.
Correct. So I think not only they're paying the top rent, the thing that I like is sometimes they're even offering as a bait, as a sweetener, they're giving 6 months or up to 12 months in advance.
Oh, wow.
So when an owner sees, a 52 weeks rent paid in advance, obviously it's a good sweetener. So not only they're paying premium rent, they do give good terms also.
What are the trends you're seeing in the market? So we spoke about tenants, but in terms of purchases, what do you see at the moment, right?
There's so the trend is basically the market is strong. Like market, there's no doubt it is strong. A lot of buyers are actually rushing in still because they when you look at property values last year, there was a bit of perception that the market might go backwards, but it actually bounced back. So market has come back strong, and it's actually it's an averaging still around 6-7% growth. So, but in some areas it's actually even stronger than that. So the trend is basically determined by supply and demand. Some areas we are seeing strong demand, but the supply is still very short. Investors are still pretty strong because the yields are strong. So yes, they can put money in the term deposit and all that, but you don't get the advantage of depreciation. You don't get advantage of the growth. You don't get there's a lot of advantages for property. So the real wealth creation, as you know, is from real estate. And so yes, there's a market trend for investors which are coming in because of strong yields, but there's also a strong lot of people from local market also. They're selling for good money and they're coming in buying property also.
Yeah, cool, excellent. So with that in mind, whether it was for investment or to live in, like I often hear, and probably too often, people think I'm just going to wait a bit. Just what I suppose, what would you say to people who go, no, I'm going to wait a bit and we'll see how the market goes?
There is no crystal ball.
Sure.
But my experience tells me in Gold Coast with the booming population, with so much spent from government for infrastructure, with the light rail, with all the other aspects also, when you only have to come out on a Saturday on Gold Coast Highway and just look at the traffic.
Correct.
So there's definitely a population boom taking place. So not only investors from interstate, but there's a lot of pressure from interstate, from people who are migrating also to Gold Coast. And also recently we've seen a strong sort of trend of migration from New Zealand that we haven't seen before. And so what's happening is people who were thinking that let's just put on hold, let's just go and wait till, let's see what the market does. They're actually losing double because their properties, the money that they receive is actually not growing, it's just sitting there. Number also, second thing is they're still incurring the cost of the rent. So it's not like as if they are saving any money. So they're paying rent, so they're actually contributing towards potential growth of someone else's property.
Yeah.
So if you buy property today and it's not, let's say if you say it's going to be better to buy in 12 months, actually you're going backwards. So it's always good to own a property. I always say to people, as far as you're buying and selling in the same market, you don't miss out. So no.
You're just moving sideways, but
correct,
basically, yeah.
In long term, after 1, 2, 3 years, look back, you'll always be upfront.
Cool. And so I heard you, right? You don't have a crystal ball. I don't have one either. Here we tend to use the disco ball because that's the, right? So in your disco ball, Ali, what do you see in the market for the next 12 months?
I think it's very strong. Winters usually is quieter, but we are seeing very strong market out there still. Usually our quieter months are May and June, but I'm finding that start of May has been really strong also. It's stronger than the peak of market 2 years ago. Our results for last 2 months or 3 months are actually stronger than the peak of market 2 years ago. And so we are still riding suburban sort of street record prices. We're achieving them. And it's just driven by investors and also pure by migration.
Yeah. And which segments of the market do you see as stronger? Is it all of them, or is there particular segments that are moving faster?
I always say to a lot of my staff, when the tide level rises, the small boats, the big cruises, they all rise. So same as in the market. Pretty much everything rises with the market. I've never seen apartments capital growth in Gold Coast as strong as that we've seen in the last 3 years.
Yeah.
So apartment market is very strong. But why you look into a lot of segments of Gold Coast market, there's a huge population that is actually baby boomers. Kids are grown up, they got money, they want to enjoy their lives, they don't want that commitment of house maintenance and all that. So they're entering the premium prestige market of apartments. And that is going so strong in a lot of areas. Paradise Point, we're seeing a really good growth. Runaway Bay, when it comes to even like Broad Beach, apartments that are quality apartments, they used to struggle a few years ago. They're in high demand because of the local population selling big houses, moving into those apartments.
Perfect, excellent. And then I imagine on the lower end as well, apartments would be popular just for affordability.
We don't have enough, believe me. We don't. If you can give us apartments sub 600, if you give us 20, they'll be gone within 2 days. Okay. So there is not enough stock.
And because we as mortgage brokers see a lot of buyers in that space, a lot of wanting to get in, whether they've exited the market some years ago and are just trying to get back, or first-time buyers. There's a heap in that sub 700, 600
Correct.
space. Yeah.
600-700 is it's such a difficult price range because there is just nothing. To get into that price range, if you can find something good, it doesn't last long. We experiencing where you got something for 650, 700. Example I'm going to give you was even over the weekend, 9 written offers from one of my staff was telling me 9 written offers were presented. So there's definitely a shortage of that price range.
Yeah. And so what would be the number one tip you would give to buyers who are out there looking?
Look, at the moment, if you can put your hand on something which is good, anything which is in a good area, that magic 1 kilometer radius to the Broadwater or to the ocean, prices have escalated a lot. So that's the old sort of radius. So it's more like a 10 kilometer radius, I should say now. Look, anything, I think if you can buy something decent, if it's apartment, something where reasonable body corporate, something which is well-maintained building, even apartments are growing fast, and houses, duplexes, townhouses, I've seen a very good growth in that.
Big surge in
that market, which brand new townhouses, duplexes, they're gold. If you got something, they're attracting big numbers.
Because I suppose with all this pressure of people moving in and population growth, we're running out of space.
Yeah.
And so it's all good to have this big Aussie dream of the 4-bedroom house, but even the government's trying to cull that a bit to fit more people in, right?
Look, when new suburbs such as Coomera, I remember about 4 years ago, a lot of blocks which were coming on the market, they were sitting around 500, was considered to be on the lower spectrum. Yeah. 600, 650 blocks were also being offered. And slowly now, if you look at them, because the land prices have shot up so much, cost of building has gone up so much. So the latest stock that is hitting the market was more around that acceptable was more like 300 square meter blocks. I remember 4 years ago, if you try to sell a 300 square meter block and a house, not a townhouse or a duplex on it, it was something that was very difficult for market to relate to it and for us to relate to it. But now that's standard. A lot of builders, like big builders, Metricons, Tribeca, Choice Home, and a lot of other builders, they've adjusted their model around that market now. So 300 to 400 square meter blocks are more where the trend at the moment is. That's more an affordable sort of point. And a lot of houses have been adjusted around that. So, yeah.
And that's a way so that the price doesn't keep going up. We're reducing the land size, basically.
Correct. Just to make it more affordable. The only way to do was you can't bring cost of construction down. So the best way to do was to let's just make land more economical, and that's going to make the end product more affordable. So doing that, yes, it's 300 square meter, 400 square meter, but the house is pretty good, still reasonable. You get your 3-bedroom or 4-bedroom still. It's just that the land side is a bit smaller.
Perfect. Now, I've got one last question for you. Obviously, all this market is very conducive to auctions and more auctions, I suppose. So do you have some tips on how a buyer should prepare to go to auction?
Look, we always recommend go and get pre-approval, because that puts them in a place where they could, it's always good to buy at auction because you know who your competition is. Usually, if it's a private treaty, the offers gets presented, but no buyer gets the opportunity to see who the other buyers are. And sometimes they just, you can't even disclose the other offers to them.
Yeah, because correct me if I'm wrong, and I say my grey hair probably shows, but I've been doing this for a long time. That never used to be like that. It used to be a lot more open, but that's changed.
Correct, because thing is, you just don't want to get into a Dutch auction. You don't want to get into where you start using one offer to get the other offer higher. Like, it's not fair on anyone.
Yep.
The best result is always, yes, we're looking after the seller's interest. There's no doubt. But you've got to have some sort of credibility in that process. And yes, you can disclose the offer by saying their offers and all that, which is good. But sometimes the buyers might not accept that. At auction, it's very transparent. It's in front of you. And you know who your competition is. So I always say to buyers, the best way to buy if you come to the auction is come prepared, because you know who your competition is. And you can make a judgment on that day when you're there. Getting pre-approval puts them in a position where they can actually bid. And if they're in that cash position where they can bid, sometimes a lot of buyers are not in that position. So they're sitting on the side hoping that the property will pass so they can then buy under their terms. And sometimes they're prepared to offer more, but because they got conditional interest. But that doesn't mean they're offering more, they're going to go through, because they can use any clause, pest and building or finance, to just get out of the contract. It's more just a way of telling the seller, look, I'm enticing you with a better offer, but I've got conditions on it. But at auction, if it's cash offer, it's unconditional. They're prepared. They've got the finance approval in place. What that does is sometimes the seller will say, hey, it's a cash, it's done, it's guaranteed, and they will basically take that offer rather than taking a chance with another buyer with conditions.
Yeah, so
you buy well at the auction.
Yeah, some buyers will agree to take even a little bit less, knowing that it's a done deal.
Correct. Or sellers, sorry, you mean the
sellers.
yeah.
Sorry, it's a done deal rather than white.
Correct. Sometimes less, but sometimes also it removes the uncertainty for the seller, because if they come after the auction, if it's a private treaty, usually there could be a 14 or a 21-day finance clause. There's a pest and building clause. There's a cooling off period. The terms are more. If you look at it from the seller's perspective, they're more beneficial or more favorable for the buyer.
Yeah.
When it comes to auction, they're more favorable for the seller, but also for the buyer in a way, because it's more transparent. They can buy, there's a chance they can buy well, but it's I think the best way of selling is because for both the parties, it's a very transparent and a very good way of selling.
Yeah. And because that's a big difference between, say, an auction and a normal sale, which we call a private treaty. Yeah. Is when the auction's done, it's done.
Correct. When auction is done, fall off the hammer, it's done, you can celebrate, you can open the champagne. But if it's a conditional, you just don't know. I've seen buyers sometimes using pest and building as a reason to come and renegotiate. I've seen buyers sometimes using finance as a reason to come and negotiate. So instead of leaving all those loopholes open till the end, you can actually sell it, celebrate, move on.
Perfect. Now, lastly, obviously, I always say that a buyer should work with the mortgage broker and with the agent in conjunction, because if we talk, then we can help putting it all together. What are your thoughts around, I guess, how to best work from a buyer's perspective, how to best work with your broker and your agent to make sure that you get to a result?
Why these both these sort of broker and agent, why it's beneficial for purchaser is it helps them establish the maximum and the lowest limit. If they know the price they can go to, conditional upon their finance, it enables agent to actually find them the relevant property faster. Sometimes agent will waste a lot of time and effort into showing properties that the buyer perceive to be the sort of, within their reach. Yeah. And then they go through and they start looking at property and they fall in love with something, but without realizing that it may not go through financially. And it breaks their heart. Secondly, it's a lot of wastage of time. And what happens is, in the meantime, the properties that were on the market within their price range, they end up selling. So not only they lose the property that they purchased, but they also lose the opportunities which were around at the time. So it's quite important to have that in place and start that together with both the parties so that they're well prepared, they're well informed, the agent is well prepared also, and everyone is on the same page. So yeah, I think it's a great deal.
So from an agent's point of view, if you know that a buyer presents themselves, they've been to their broker, they're now pre-approved or what I call purchase ready, that's a hot buyer for you guys, right?
Look, if an agency or an agent knows that there is a cash buyer ready, cash means finance approved purchaser, agents will put them on the priority list. Yeah. And they will treat them a bit differently compared to a purchaser which is not in a position to make an unconditional offer. Because they know, A, they're not wasting time. Mm-hmm. Number B, when they go to a seller, the first question sellers will ask is, what are the conditions? How well prepared is this purchaser? Have they got their money ready? And if the answer is they haven't even seen the broker yet, versus they're pre-approved, the language is different. So seller gets excited, the agent gets excited, and it's a different thing.
So let's get pre-approved and let's get everyone excited. That's Correct. What I'm hearing, right?
Correct, yeah. Because what it does is it just creates, it's better for purchaser, it's better for the seller, it's better for the agent. Yeah. If you want agent and seller to take you seriously, put yourself in a position where you're ready to go. Because what's going to happen is you're going to come across a property which is going to be perfect, exactly 100% for what you were looking for at the right price, and you will come forward with an conditional offer, versus there's a chance that agent will get introduced by a purchaser which is actually ready to go pre-approved. Obviously, seller's going to accept their offer versus your offer.
Of course. Yeah.
So you will always be the priority will always be with the purchaser ready to go. So if you want to be in that position where your offers gets looked at seriously and you are on the top of the list, put yourself in a position where you can come with that offer, which Excellent. Is unconditional.
Perfect.
Okay, perfect.
Very much. Well, thank you so much, Ali. That is a lot of wisdom, and we'll make sure that all buyers that are presented are definitely pre-approved.
Okay, perfect. Good luck.
And how do we get in contact with you, Ali?
Look, we've got 5 branches across Northern Gold Coast. We deal pretty much all around the Gold Coast. So we've been there for, as we started with over 2 decades of experience. We've got 35 plus agents in the business. We are pretty much, they can contact us anytime through an email or via text message or phone call. So pretty much, we're available.
Great. So we'll put the details on screen, but it's Ray Mian Group.
Correct.
Your group that looks after Northern Gold Coast and does that very
Central Gold Coast, Northern Gold, anywhere, it doesn't matter. As far as we've got offices in Pack Pine, Runaway Bay, Sovereign, Urundle, Paradise Point, Runaway, pretty much, all around the coast. So you can contact us and, we can...
This is our Gold Coast man.
That is.
Well, thank you so much, Ali. We really appreciate your time and joining us on the show.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Xavier, that was a great interview. It's always good to bring on a special guest. Plenty to reflect on. Firstly, what did you take out of our time with Ali?
Well, I'm hoping that it gave our borrowers and our viewers a few nuggets. The main few things for me were that, yes, the market is hot. It's hot for rent, it's hot to purchase, and you need all the help you can get from getting ready, getting purchase ready, and we'll always advocate that. Get your pre-approval in place. Make sure that you know when you go to the negotiating table that you're approved and you know what your limits are. So that resonated very well from Ali, and it's the same song we always sing to our borrowers. The other big thing for me is that traditionally Queensland has been a private treaty kind of state, and probably still is, but the rules of the game changed. I think COVID and the massive equity growth that we've seen, coupled with a very, very tight market, gives sellers more tools. And so what we've seen, like Ali was mentioning, is private treaty was turning into Dutch auctions, which is not really ethical, and so it changed the landscape. So now when you're going to buy a property for private treaty, you need to put your best foot forward, and you don't often get a chance to counter that. So Ali was mentioning this sale where they had 9 buyers. I think when you look, this happens more and more often. One gets picked, the other 8 gets dropped, and don't get a chance to counter. Yes. And even we had on a previous show, Olivia as a buyer's agent, she was saying the same thing. You know, people don't get a second bite of the cherry, and when they learn they could have paid 5 or 10 grand more, they would have paid that, but it's too late, it's gone. So auction seems to be quite a transparent way to get those rubbish practices out of the equation, but it also means that buyers need to be a lot more ready to go to auction, because when the hammer hits, as Ali said, that's it, you bought it. So we need to make sure that we don't go over drama after the hammer falls.
So you talk about being ready for auction. What are some of the key points for somebody that is about to go to auction? They should, almost like a little checklist for people that they need.
I always say, so with an auction, you cannot get 100% ready. Right, so our job is to get you as ready as possible, and we can alleviate most of the hurdles bar one, which is to do with the property, right? So what we do is we get you pre-approved, we get you to understand your maximum purchase price, we make sure that everything else is as good as possible, right? And then you go to auction. Now you pay a price, we have to order valuation and check that price after you've gone to auction. Okay. So that's the little bit of risk that is left in the system, right? But it is a little risk, and it's a risk that people who go to auction have to be prepared to take. We should have alleviated all the other risk, which is borrowing capacity. Are you approved? Do you have the deposit? Is your credit history fine? All those things with a pre-approval, we've already checked.
So what are some of the pain points for people you found in your experience that have gone to auction unprepared, and they've come to you and go, oh, I wish I had this, or I wish I'd known that? Do you ever hear some of those?
Well, the worst ones is I wish I didn't buy it. And not because of the property usually, but because they're not ready and they don't even know if they can get a loan.
Really?
So we do see that. We do people go offer cash unconditional offers or go to auction and then go, damn, now we probably need to get our finance in place. And
so they just they've overlooked that.
Completely overlooked that. It always amazes me that that sort of stuff happens. The only other bit that you're missing out as an auction is you can't do a building in pairs. So Nali mentioned that. So you need to be damn sure before you go to auction day to check the property out. So often sellers and agents will let you do some discovery work on the property prior to auction day. So you need to do that before.
Which means what, sorry?
So if you want a building test done, feel free to ask the agent or the seller if you're happy to pay for it and do it before auction day.
So you pay that?
Yeah, as the buyer, you would pay that. So normally in a private treaty or normal sale, as we call it, you would go to contract, put a subject clause in. So it might be subject to finance and subject to building and pest. Now you've got time to do that.
Gotcha.
But with an auction, you've got to do it before. Now, people said to me, yeah, but I don't want to pay for building and pest report if I don't buy that property. That is a risk you have to take.
Yes.
Right? So with auctions, there's a few risks. The valuation is one of them, and the building and pest is another. the building and pest, you can alleviate that by doing it before, but it will cost you a few $100s.
Okay, so just a few hundred, and they can't refuse that, can they?
Oh, sure, they can refuse.
But that's a pretty big red flag.
I suppose if there's nothing to hide, why would you refuse it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
No, well, thank you for. I know we kind of backed over some of that stuff we talked about with Ali, but I think it's sometimes important to hear it from multiple voices. So thank you so much for that, Xavier. And that's another episode done and dusted. That's episode 7. Can you believe it?
Yeah, I know. Thank you so much. It's been very informative. Really enjoy it.
Another great episode. We look forward to seeing who else we bring on in the future, but it's great you're also getting a wide range of people in industry. Yeah. So well done, and we'll see you all next time. Actually, before we run away, we better do a little call to action. How do we get in contact with you, Xavier? Okay, so you should find us online, gomortgage.au, or on the socials, or you can even give us a call on 1300 855 244. And what do we Google again for that? You want to just Google it? Best Mortgage Broker Goldcoast. There it is. We'll see you next month.